Tricia, Evelyn, you ready? Your report.
Good evening, everyone. As a reminder, before the meeting starts, if you are a board member, please be sure to unmute your microphone when speaking for the broadcast and recording. The Community Development Manager is the host of the Zoom meeting. Speakers will be able to unmute themselves when recognized. The public who did not register in advance can usually view the recording meeting on the city's YouTube page within 48 hours. For tonight's Planning Commission meeting, please dial 720-386-9023 and use code 104091 for live Spanish translation services. Habrá interpretación disponible en español en vivo por teléfono. Llame al 720-386-9023 y ingrese el código de conferencia 104091 *.
Thank you, Evelyn. We will now call our meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Evelyn, can you please do a roll call of the commission?
Chairman Popiel,
Present.
Vice Chair Amador,
Present.
Commissioner Bitloff,
Present.
Commissioner Van Dyke,
Present.
Commissioner Ingram,
Present.
We also have some alternates present with us tonight. So Roger Japp, I think he's online, Deborah Eagleson, and then Mr. Steve Douglas. Thank you also for joining us tonight. Would also like to introduce staff present with us tonight. Sarah Geiger, Acting Deputy City Attorney, Steve Timms, Planning Manager, Monroe Trotman, Development Engineer, Tricia Mason, Community Development Manager, Jennifer Jones, Principal Planner, Anita Riley, Principal Planner, Dalton Guerra, Planner, Stacy Wazinger, Planner, Nathan Chavez, Planner, Evelyn Flores, Planning Commission Liaison. Thank you for being present as well. Now I'd like to ask for a motion for approval of our minutes from our last meeting.
Chairperson, just a quick point of order on the minutes that reflected my position as Deputy City Attorney and notice till now. I'm actually the acting, so if the record could just reflect that change, that would be.
Okay, thank you for that note. And those that were not present either, have to make sure that you abstain. Have a motion for the approval?
So
we will
moved.
be doing a voice vote for the minutes.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 4 yeses, 0 noes. The motion has passed to approve the minutes. Will staff please introduce our first case of the evening?
First case is case number Z-860-07-08-18-22, and that's Southwestern Property Corporation. That's requesting to amend the Commons at 104th PUD to allow additional land uses with associated bulk standards for the property generally located at the southeast corner of Potomac Street and East 104th Avenue. And I believe Dalton Guerra from staff will be presenting.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Dalton Guerra. I'm a city planner with the Commerce City Planning Division. I'll be presenting the PUD Amendment Number 1 for the Commons at 104th. The location of this property is at the southeast corner of East 104th Avenue and Potomac Street. The request is an approval of an amendment to the Commons at 104th PUD zone document to allow multifamily residential uses as well as a couple additional commercial uses. The current zoning is PUD. That will not be changing. The future land use plan is mixed use. Little background, City Council in 2008 approved the original PUD zone document, but at that time it was approved, there was no multifamily residential land uses permitted. And then in 2019, land use plan amendment was also approved by City Council, and it changed the designation of this property from office flex to mixed use corridor and commercial. Here's an aerial of the site. It's bound by 104th Avenue to the north, Potomac Street to the west, and Blackhawk Street to the east. A couple site photos. This is facing south from 104th Avenue, west from Blackhawk Street, and east from Potomac Street. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting approval of an amendment to the Commons at 104th Zone document to allow additional land uses, including multifamily residential. Included in that will be the associated bulk standards that come along with those multifamily residential uses as well. Here's a look at the proposed PUD. You can see planning area A to the north will now be designated for commercial, and to the south, planning area B will be designated for multifamily residential. The original PUD had both planning area A and B designated as mixed use. This concept plan was provided by the applicant, so you can see the commercial pad sites to the north along 104th Avenue, and then the multifamily residential to the south. The DRT reviewed this PUD zone document against the requirements of the PUD zone document standards, as well as the comprehensive plan. In addition, staff distributed this project out for referral. This included Xcel Energy, United Power, South Adams County Fire, South Adams County Water, and as well as our internal city departments. During the DRT meeting, there was questions about the end users for the proposed commercial sites along 104th. The applicant has indicated that there are no specific end users in line at this time. They're also here to speak on that if they have any updates on that as well. Some project benefits, allowing the multifamily residential land use on the southern portion of the property. It creates an area that can provide housing, employment, as well as commercial services to residents in the area. It also keeps the property in line with the future land use amendment that was approved by City Council in 2019. The DRT found that this application meets all approval criteria as outlined in section 21-32513 of the Land Development Code. The analysis is detailed in the staff reports. These slides just kind of give you an overview of each criteria themselves. Some referral agency comments that were discussed over the course of this review. Commerce City Parks Department had made a comment that a park and lieu fee must be paid at the time of building permit submittal. South Adams County Water, Xcel Energy, and United Power all made comment regarding providing utility easements and not proposing any buildings within those easements. And Public Works has made note that a subdivision plat as well as a development agreement are required in the future. As of today, staff received one phone call from the public inquiring whether or not there would be a restaurant proposed as part of the commercial development. And as mentioned before, we are not sure exactly what the end users will be at this time. The DRT recommendation, the official recommendation from DRT was approval on July 7th, 2022. And as such, the DRT recommendation is for the Planning Commission to move forward with a favorable recommendation to the City Council. Staff's available to answer any questions that you may have, as well as the applicant. Thank you.
Maybe for efficiency, let's have the applicant make their presentation, and then we can work through our questions.
Thank you. My name is Mark Campbell. I'm president of Southwestern Property Corp. Happy to be here. I want to thank the city staff. We've been working on this for years. Dalton came in after a couple different planners. Thank you. He's been very responsive. And the rest of the staff, there's so many involved, so thank you to them. Very short history. We've been in Commerce City since 2001 doing deals and provided thousands of platted lots that we sold to home builders. All these are in what we call the North Range. In addition, we built all the retail on the south side of 104th at Chambers, which included Walgreens, First Bank, and what you see there now. By way of a little history, we bought those in 2003, and we actually had King Soopers on the southwest corner signed up and Safeway on the southeast corner by about 2006. And then the downturn hit, and they both went away. for different reasons. Kings obviously expanded from 72,000 feet to 135,000 feet or something and went to the north side, but we're very happy they're there. So we love working in Commerce City. A few years ago, we rezoned some land at Chambers, 104th, and we've recently built what we call the Range Apartments, which is 180 Class A units there. And I will say that we are 100% leased, and I don't believe we have our final CO. We have a TCO on all the buildings, but it leased up very, very quickly, which demonstrates the demand in the market. We have a slide we'll talk about a little bit later, but from your own city statistics, renter-occupied housing units represent like 8.1% of the housing stock today. It was 12.8 in the year 2000. It's estimated to go down by your numbers by 2025 to 7.3% of the entire housing stock. And we might point out, you might look at Denver as a whole, it's 33 or 34% of the housing stock is rental multifamily. So multifamily is well underrepresented in this area, and it demonstrates the need. And it will be Class A apartments. We're working on that plan. My earlier background was in retail development. We've done 30 or 40 shopping centers around in many states, and so we are negotiating right now with about 10 different users all along the front. So the entire frontage of 104th will be retail and medical. They're not identified yet. We've reached out to dozens of restaurants. We've got some interest, but nothing signed yet. So we're focused heavily on restaurants right now. Here with me today is one of my partners, Jackson Gibbons. He's got more details and he has better ears than I do, so he'll be answering a lot of questions because I don't hear very well. And we've got Jeff Newley, who's our planner with Kephart, who did the details. So with that, turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Mark. Are we able to pull up our presentation by chance? Dalton, if you could.
I believe it was in the packet as well.
Okay, well, while he's pulling that up, I mean, we
Pull that
could
up.
get started at least. First, I just want to thank Dalton for a comprehensive overview of the project. If you have it in your packet, you know, Dalton covered a lot of the regional maps, vicinity maps, and Mark hit on the economics. If you go to the PUD zone document, specifically, we're looking at the planning areas. I think really the big things to add on to what Dalton was speaking about is that planning, we split up the property into two planning areas. Planning Area A, which is strictly commercial uses. No residential uses will be allowed within Planning Area A. So we're talking, you know, commercial, retail, office uses along Planning Area A. And then Planning Area B is specifically restricted to residential uses in the terms of multifamily, age-restricted multifamily, assisted living, memory care, nursing homes, townhomes, and row homes, and any residential clubhouses as well. And if you go to the next page, one of the things that we've been working with hand in hand, Dalton and planning staff is creating a list of architectural standards that each planning area has to abide by. And these are things that talk about 360-degree architecture, talks about site design and pushing buildings to the street. Yeah, if you can go to, I think it's 8. Perfect. So on the bottom right, we've created a list of these architectural standards that go through materiality, roof pitches, windows, all these standards that each one of these developments within the PUD will have to match. And really, the intent is to provide a seamless theme throughout the PUD. One, to create a great development that Commerce City is proud of, but also to create those standards to provide development that that we're proud of as well. So if you go to the next slide, this shows a lot of the bulk standards that we've written in for each planning area that comes down to densities, setbacks, things like that. And then we also have a detailed land use schedule, which I mentioned, which talks about uses by right, conditional uses, which basically says, anything in planning area B, residential, anything in planning area A is commercial, retail, office, things of those nature. So if you go to the next slide, this is really just some conceptual imagery of projects, really the theming and of what you're to expect with this language that we've written in and the standards that we've set. It's a variety of roof pitches and materiality, stuccos, sidings, pushing buildings, to the streets, focusing then on open spaces and the primary residential streets. One of the things with these multifamily residential projects is having a prominent clubhouse and getting residents around the primary amenities, whether it's a pool or workout facility. That's one of the things we want to promote. 360-degree architecture, as you can see in these images, with a clear base, top, and middle as well. And so that continues on into the commercial aspects. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see the imagery is consistent with that, with enhancing the primary entries, whether that be with window enhancements, variety of materials and bricks and stones, and stucco as well. So that same consistent theming, not only in the residential, but also in the commercial and uses as well. So if you go to the next, which is a slide of our site plan, I think obviously this is conceptual. We're not in the site planning process. This is just to give staff and commissioners an idea of what a final build out could look like. So right along 104th, you have a variety of commercial uses ranging in sizes. Right here we're saying there's it could be a retail, it could be coffee, a restaurant, medical offices, auto parts, retail stores. So that variety. And within the center is a private drive that gets you out to East 104th, Potomac, and Blackhawk as well. There's a variety of sidewalks that's going to connect users from the residential to the commercial area, not only internal, but also adjacent throughout the community, so that there's that balance of getting users to the end goal and supporting the retail that's coming in as well. This specific site plan obviously has residential to the south. This happens to be a 36 and 24-plex 3-story product with a variety of residential amenities. There's pool, dog park, things that are pretty common and highly desirable on this market. So our whole team is here. If there's any additional questions, please feel free. We're happy to answer as they come along. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll kind of kick us off here for a few questions between you and staff. I think one of the things that we always kind of look to, right, is, again, the definitions in the land use schedule. So can you bring that up? I think it's on page 22. A couple questions I had. I think staff looks like they did a pretty good job comparing the old to the new. There's a couple ones I had questions on, or at least a discussion points from the commissioners. One, you know, I think this would be a good thing. I just don't see the table filled out. If you can zoom in on that. The eating and drinking establishments, the brewery, brew pub, tasting room. I'm assuming that's one that we would want included in that. Just, it's filled, it's blank, right?
I'm not sure I understand. Sorry, you're saying it's blank in the cell?
Well, you see how it's, yeah, there's nothing, there's no restricted, there's no conditional use in there.
So the Rs represent permitted?
Agreed, and C is the conditional use.
Correct, and so you're referencing brewery, brew pub, tasting room, distilleries, and there's an R underneath planning area A, which would indicate that it's permitted by right. The X would say-
Go up underneath the eating and drinking establishments.
Oh, I see, okay. I see what you're saying now.
Question for the commissioners, and I think it's worth a discussion point again on the food and beverage sales. I was surprised to see, obviously, I think a convenience store, grocery store is definitely a positive. With fuel sales, again, another discussion point if that's something that we feel is was there communication with the applicant on the fuel sales for these lots? And was that a desire by the applicant?
Yes. We had discussions with the applicant about providing fuel sales. We thought it was a necessary service to provide for the neighborhood. Of course, it's still.
How did it go to limit the number of fuel pumps?
Go ahead.
I mean, it was good to see that there was a maximum listed in there.
Jackson Givens here with Southwestern Property Corp. So through this discussion with Dalton and the other planners, you know, we thought fuel and convenience store would be a good use for this area, you know, people going to work and also returning home. But staff felt that, you know, there should be a limit on to how many different locations that you can have those fuel pumps and limit the amount of them. So the traffic isn't too heavy and burdening one portion of the site more than the others.
Yeah, I think that was also good to see the maximum, right? I think even probably like a standard 7-Eleven would probably have more than 5 pumps at the station. What is underneath the telecommunications? What is a telecommunications facility?
You know, typically we see telecommunications facility being like a cellular tower that takes up a small portion of somebody's lot that, you know, they might either rent out that portion of their lot or carve off a small piece for that cellular tower to have better service for the community.
And again, that would be a conditional use, so that would be good to see if that were to arise, that would be a conditional use on that side of it. Again, I don't think it took, you know, major exemptions to that. Those were just ones I wanted to point out from the commissioners that I saw as potential discussion points. How about the number of open space, right? I mean, again, go back to the site plan. It looks like we're not meeting our open space requirements from a Parks and Rec standpoint. And so we're looking to go pay a fee in lieu of, obviously with that type of complex, you would think we would rather have seen the parks there for the space versus paying the fee. So can you walk us through your thought process there?
Yeah, so this isn't necessarily a site plan submittal. So in the PUD, we have a 15% open space requirement. So if you know, there is a site plan that is submitted, that's something that they would have to abide by.
Okay, I thought it read that you were already planning not to hit that percentage, so we're planning to pay the fee in lieu of. Did I miss
Just for clarification, so the fee in lieu is for public park, and this is private HOA park. So
Okay.
there's no public park proposed here in the Parks Master Plan, so they would pay a fee in lieu to the city, then that would use that to acquire public land. This is all the private HOA
Okay.
parkland.
That helps, Steve. And then typically we've seen a letter from the school district, 27J, at least that was something that we've started to see in some previous packets. I didn't see a letter from 27J. Have there been conversations there with the school district, and how are those conversations gone? I know that was one that we typically like to see in the packet. We saw quite a few. We saw one from water. We saw one from The police chief, those were great to see in that packet, but how about the school district? We didn't see that in here.
If I recall, we've had a number of submittals working with staff, and I think the comments from the school district came very early on with, no issues with what we were proposing. But again, I believe that was pretty early on in the whole process of the many submittals we've had.
And staff can acknowledge those, we didn't receive any feedback.
Yeah,
from the
I mean,
7J.
we send all the referrals to the school district, so I don't have the specific response from them, either on the concept plan, but we can check for you real quick.
Okay. No, like I said, it was good to see the other districts, other agencies provide the feedback, and that included in the packet. I just didn't see that one. Questions from the applicants or for the commissioners to the applicant or staff?
I do have one. In regards to parking, so I'm looking at the parking standards, and thank you for putting that in your submittal, page 22 of our packet. In there, it's a little weird with the commercial, so I'm kind of looking to staff where it says section 7-15 of the commercial city land use code. It looks like we have enough parking spaces for the commercial piece, but where my concern kind of goes is that I look at 228 units based on this site plan that's here. And then I mean, how many are 1 bedroom, how many are 2 bedroom, how many are 3 bedroom? There's different allotments per, call it built unit type, if that makes sense. And it says that 15% of the required parking spaces are for visitors on the residential side. As I just kind of did some rough math looking around your diagram that is up on the page there. How many parking spaces is that? It's really hard to see, but I'm imagining we're gonna need quite a few.
Yes, the site plan layout you have here, so in the PUD, we're referencing city code parking standards, and this site plan with 228 units adequately parks that per the code.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add on to this, this is conceptual, so when we go into site plan, we will definitely have adequate parking to meet city code, just like we did it over at the range.
And then I also do want to just, commend this plan that's conceptual. I get it. When I first looked at an 800 square foot building, I was like, good Lord, that's pretty small. What's 800 square feet? It's maybe the first floor of someone's house, maybe, and what kind of commercial type would be there. And so I do see kind of maybe a drive-through coffee space. It's commercial space 2, C2. So I think it's really good, but I think in general, the thought process to have commercial along the top, I'm gonna call it the top end, I think it's north anyway, if they haven't changed it on me, but the northern end there, yep. And then the residential looks like a fairly good comprehensive plan that should be feasible, so thank you.
Any further questions from the commissioners? Garrett?
Yes, I understand that this is a conceptual plan, but I would question or ask, how are you going to deal with accessibility to amenity spaces and just what the plan may be for that? Because it seems that some of the amenities that you have are divorced from some of the, especially on the residential side, that I would like you to address that. And then you also noted the having the sidewalks and that portion to it, but then how is to meet the accessibility needs, especially if you're making the case of the need of rental property, of people tying into that, and how would that be addressed?
Yeah, so when this comes in for, a site plan submittal, there's a variety of accessibility requirements that this project will have to meet. That's providing, sidewalks and ADA requirements to all the clubhouse, the amenity areas. So when you come in for that, we'll obviously make sure that we're hitting all those points.
And then also in terms of, off-site amenities, the sidewalks will connect up to 104th, which has a, great sidewalk path right now to get you over to Third Creek, Second Creek, and those amenity spaces as well.
Because I would also like to see in future submission, just as a question, would be the interconnectivity between the commercial spaces. I understand this is a conceptual plan and it's laying out proposed uses in the future. Just thinking of those issues in the future. Thank you.
Any further questions?
The only thing I just want to do is underscore maybe the importance of hearing from 27J again. I'm just thinking a lot about like the difference between a multifamily residential apartments and what that means in terms of the population growth in this area versus if they were single-family homes, and again, not seeing that 27J comment in here, I think can be a little bit problematic, especially when we're looking at this amount of kind of population growth in a small space.
Thank you. We will now move to our public participation. For virtual participation, the city needed advanced registration to participate in the virtual public comment portion. We did not have any requests from the public to speak virtually. If anyone wishes to speak at future Planning Commission meetings, please check the meeting agenda and city website for information on how to register or submit written comments. We will now begin that public comment session for those in person. If anybody would like to speak about the case, please step to the podium. Please state your name and address.
Sure, Steve Douglas, 10970 Unity Parkway. Thank you, Chair and Planning Commissioners. This is a great opportunity for retail, what we're missing in the north, because right now our leakage is around close to $1 billion a year, and this would help. But when it comes to multifamily, most of the projects that are coming in are market rate, and we really need affordable prices. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a mixed, they're going to maybe entertain that for our essential workers, because right now, most of the essential workers are looking for places to live. This would not be a place for them because it would be market rate. Right now, based on the median income of essential workers, this would not be on top on their list. And as far as mixed use, I know the other apartments that were built behind Dion's, to consider the private drive needs to be a little bit wider than what is currently there. It's just too narrow. I know this is just a concept, but just things to move forward towards council. And as far as mixed use, I would love to see more retail space and less splitting it up for multifamily in retail. We're getting there, but we're not, I believe we're not there yet. Maybe if this project was 3/4 retail and 1/4 multifamily, that would be a start. But there's a lot of things to consider here. And so I know there's just something for you guys to consider. Maybe ask the applicant to come back and not have this go forward to council, but have them come back with another concept. That's all I have right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Any further comments from the public? We will now close our public hearing portion of the meeting. Comments from the commissioners? Yes, fine. Is there a motion for the case?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, before we do any motions, just for clarification on that one item on the land use schedule about the tasting room and the brew pubs. I don't want to assume, but I'll assume, right, that if Planning Commission votes to recommend approval, they would want to see brew pubs or breweries in planning area A as a use by right and not in B, or I don't want, but help us, or do you want to see those allowed or conditional use? I guess, Right now, it's blank, and so they would not be allowed in either, but,
Don't think we would want to deny the community the brew pub.
Well, just a point of order, I'm not sure what the applicant's intent was, and that would be,
you can ask the applicant as well, yeah.
Okay.
Can we pull up that schedule? Yeah. No worry. Can we pull up the schedule? So if you look, it's actually just a duplicate. So we have brewery, brew pub, tasting room. That's meant to be an R and an X where it's just doubled. So we'll just remove that and update.
So, okay, so so that's good to know. So staff would remove the blank one, because that's confusing. But for planning commissions and the public's edification, it is listed below as the use by right in planning area A and exclusion in planning area B.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we need to amend our motion to
I don't know if that's
add that condition that it would be
Yes,
a
I
use by
would-
right?
I would move to approve what the intent was or deny, whatever you're inclined to do, whatever the motion is. Because as is, if the intent is to remove that blank PUD amendment, you'd have a different document going up than what you're voting on, so.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the case?
I'm gonna take a shot at this. Here we go. I move that the planning commission enter a finding that the requested PUD zone document amendment for the property located at the southeast corner of Potomac Street and East 104th Avenue contained in case Z-806-07-08-18-22 meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based upon such findings, recommend that the city council approve the PUD zone amendment document with one amendment to the document under eating and drinking establishments to be deleted, but move forward with food and beverage sales under beverage, brew pub, tasting room, distilleries, etc., as a R, which I believe is used by right.
So Commissioner, I assume you mean just the brewery, brew pub, tasting room, and distilleries under eating and drinking establishment, not all of the eating and drinking establishments as a use?
I guess that's a conversation for the applicant, but I would imagine that they would want the brew pub, tasting room, and distilleries as part of the R.
Right, but your motion as indicated asked to amend by eliminating all the uses under the eating and drinking establishments, and I assume that was not your intent.
No, the intent is not to eliminate all of the.
Okay, so the motion is to just remove the blank brewery, brew pub, tasting room, distilleries, et cetera, use under eating and drinking establishments because it is already present under food and beverage sales.
Correct, we're saying the same
Thank
thing.
you, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Amador. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion on the second. Discussion from the commissioners. I think to second the testimony, I think this is a great plan. I think it uses good uses of commercial space that we would like to have seen along 104th. So in that, I will be in favor of this case. Shall call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed.
The motion has passed, 5 yeses, 0 nos. Thank you to staff and for the applicant. Mr. Geyer, please introduce the second case of the evening.
Sure, the second case is Z-983-22, and that is Starboard Realty Group on behalf of 48th and Ivy LLC. That's requesting a zone change from agricultural to medium-intensity industrial, I-2, for the property located at 4800 Ivy Street, generally located at the northeast corner of East 48th Avenue and Ivy Street, consisting of approximately 8.79 acres. And I believe Stacy Wassinger from staff will be presenting.
And Mr. Chair, just for point of order clarification, item number 2, just if any public's watching or anything like that, that particular zoning item for our Track F LLC with Del West that has been withdrawn, and so that application will not be heard tonight or any other night by Planning Commission or City Council. Any new application would have to be submitted to the city and go through that process. So that application is dead, and there's no further action needed on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Sims.
Thank you. Ms. Wassinger.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Stacy Wassinger here to present case Z983-22. Just from an orientation standpoint, this is the triangle-shaped piece here that we are discussing tonight regarding a rezone from agricultural to I2. So this is located on the north side of East 48th Avenue and the east side of Ivy Street. The request is a zone change from the agricultural, which allows basic agricultural and residential uses, to a I2 medium intensity industrial. And uses by right in I2 include things like warehousing, distribution, truck distribution, things like that, which is consistent with the future land use in this area of general industrial. So this is a currently vacant site that's approximately 8.79 acres. It was zoned agricultural with incorporation into the city. This is part of a larger development plan, including property to the west side of Ivy Street that has already been zoned I3 in 1975. And so this zoning would allow, or this zone change request would allow for both sides of this overall development to have appropriate zoning for the proposed uses, which is industrial distribution. There is an associated development plan and plat under administrative review. And on this particular triangle piece, one building is proposed. It's about 60,000 square feet, but the overall development includes total of 6 buildings and just under 840,000 square feet of warehousing and distribution space. This would be accessed from Ivy Street, this property, and this is new industrial development to this area, and is in a urban renewal area in Commerce City. So the developer, the ultimate developer to this that has submitted the development plan and plat application is CA Ventures. Their industrial focus is on warehousing and distribution, and this, you stated this proposed center does have over 800,000 square feet. Users are not yet identified, but will increase the employment base in this area. So here's your current site, and just the highlighted yellow portion is this property we're talking about tonight. The green portion is the additional site for the overall development that is just over 60 acres total. So here are a couple of site photos. From the left-hand side here is from Ivy Street, and the right-hand side is from East 48th Avenue. So you can see this is a currently undeveloped. There will be public improvement agreements or development agreements with the address improving the roadways and things like that associated with this. Here's the conceptual site plan that shows the overall development with the triangle piece highlighted in red there, or outlined in red. So the DRT analysis was that based on the applicant's request, the DRT believes the rezoning is justified. The I2 is consistent with the future land use and will allow for the development of the property in an industrial area. And those proposed development plan and plat that are the concurrent applications are consistent with this I2 zoning request. And I'll go into a little more on the environmental background of this site, but as part of the DRT analysis, ultimately there were no agency review comments or objections to the rezone. So going into the environmental background here, this is part of the Sand Creek, or is the Sand Creek Superfund site, which is associated with the former landfill. The overall property, which includes parts of this triangle piece and the property west of Ivy Street was part of the national priority list in the 80s due to the high levels of contamination, specifically from that landfill. And so the responsible parties did implement a landfill gas extraction system and a clean soil cap that helped remediate the site, which led to its removal from the national priority list in 1996. There were use restrictive covenants in place. And so this current developer has worked with both the EPA and CDPHE, Colorado Department of Health and the Environment, to develop an improved work plan and to also modify the use restrictions on the site to allow for this use. And so ultimately, the Tri-County Health, CDPHE, and EPA have all been satisfied with the work plan and the use restrictions as part of the remediation efforts to allow for the development of this site. So as mentioned, there will be a public improvements or a development agreement required for this site, and that will be accomplished with the development plan and the plat. And the current proposed developments under administrative review will meet all city requirements. And so the DRT found that all approval criteria for a zone change is met per the Land Development Code section 21-3232.5. And those are all listed on these slides. The DRT at a regular meeting on August 4th, 2022, voted for a recommendation of approval that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council. So with that, staff concludes our presentation. Available to answer any questions. The applicant is also present to present and answer any questions.
Similar to the last case, maybe the applicant can speak and then we'll ask our questions.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Bruce O'Donnell. I'm with Starboard Realty Group, and I'm the owner's representative for this application. And I want to acknowledge Stacy's hard work and diligence on this, and I'll try to be brief in going through so I'm not too repetitive. This is the site. It's the 8.8 acre triangle at the northeast corner of 48th and Ivy. And this is a conceptual image of the type of Class A industrial product that could be built here once the rezoning is completed. Next, please. Today, the property is zoned ag, which is kind of a leftover remnant surrounded by heavy industrial property everywhere. And as Stacy mentioned, this has been a vacant landfill for about 40 years. And so this is a step to put this land towards productive use, pardon me. These images on the right are typical of the problems there today with the vacant, undeveloped land. There's been a determination of blight, and the Commerce City Urban Renewal Authority has approved an urban renewal plan. Rezoning it will implement the comprehensive master plan recommendations for the city. And this site is also located within a metropolitan district so that horizontal public infrastructure can be financed and maintained. Again, here's the site. It's about 8.8 acres. This is the conceptual master plan. And as Stacy mentioned, this is just a component of it. All of the property west of Ivy is already zoned I3. At staff's recommendation, we did not choose to pursue I3, and instead the more moderate I2 zoning is perfect for the types of uses we plan to develop here. From the concept design, this is a layout potentially of up to about a 60,000 square foot building that could be enabled by the rezoning. And then next please, Stacy. As has been described, concurrent with the rezoning, we're processing a development plan through the city. And so this is just an example of the type of detail that is being sorted out and indicating that it will comply with all the city design standards and zoning criteria and so forth. Next, please. Again, a typical architecture for the high cube Class A industrial warehouse and distribution buildings we envision on the site. As the staff report mentioned, all of the approval criteria have been met, and so there they are, all checked off. In the comp plan, the deep purple designates a future land use of industrial, and so rezoning this implements this comp plan recommendation. And this site is also kind of in the heart of the comp plan southern industrial focus area that talks about retaining industrial uses, the efficiency of infill development, and encouraging environmental cleanup of some properties. And we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of pages documenting the EPA and CDPHE effort to make sure this is cleaned up properly and put to productive use. And with that, I request that the Planning Commission recommend approval of City Council of case number Z-983-22, rezoning the 48th and Ivy property from Ag to I-2. I'm available to answer any questions should you have any. And I'm also joined by an attorney via Zoom. She's on remotely, that's helped with the environmental work. And our civil engineer processing the development plan, Jake Burks from Kimley Horn, is also here if you have any questions of him. Thank you. Polly. Yes.
Questions from the commissioners? Okay. Now move to the public comment portion of the case. I don't believe we have anybody registered virtually. Anyone in the public wish to speak about the case? Mr. Douglas, please state your name and address.
Sure. Steve Douglas, 10970 Unity Parkway. Just that one question, is this parcel of land going to go through the same scrutiny as far as monitoring with the land gas extraction system?
I would ask staff that. Ms. Wassinger, do you know if I'm assuming the procedures will not change?
So it is continuing to be monitored through the remediation systems on site. I would defer to the applicant if there's more detail on that, but it is continuing to be monitored and remediated as needed per the EPA and CDPHE work plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further questions from the public? We will now close our public hearing. Is there a motion for the case?
I move that the Planning Commission enter a finding that the requested zone change for the property located at the northwest corner of East 48th Avenue and Ivy Street, contained in case Z-783-22, meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based on such finding, recommend that the City Council approve the zone change.
Commissioner, is it the northwest or the northeast corner?
Northeast corner.
Thanks.
There seems to be confusion, Commissioner. I think the recommended motion may be on page 187, because I think the case number was wrong as well, unless I got it confused in your motion just now. No? I'm not sure if you can see it or not.
Yeah, I can see, so it's not 186, the recommended approval?
What is your case number in this again?
Case number should be Z983.
Yeah, -22.
Dash 22?
Yeah, that's not what you read.
That's what I read, I think,
Oh.
right? Was it?
I don't think so.
That's what I see on 186 as well.
That's the recommended motion. If we could just read it again, that would be great, because I was like,
Thank you.
All right. Round two. I move that the Planning Commission enter a finding that the requested zone change for the property located at the northeast corner of East 48th Avenue and Ivy Street, contained in case Z-983-22, meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and basis upon such finding, recommend that the City Council approve the zone change.
Do I have a second?
I second.
A motion, discussion from the commissioners? The motion, have a second. Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed.
The motion has passed, 5 yeses, 0 nos. Again, thank you for staff and the applicant. Ms. Geiger, please introduce our next.
The next item is an action item, and that is ordinance 2423. And that's an ordinance to amend Article 5 of the Land Development Code to remove a size requirement for lodging establishments. And I believe staff Nathan Chavez will be presenting.
Good evening, Commission members. Tonight I will be presenting an LDC amendment for lodging establishments within our supplemental regulation standards. So City Council and the Economic Development Division have expressed a desire to remove a size requirement for lodging establishments within the LDC. Specifically, 150 rooms are required for any lodging establishment within 1 mile of E470. Since the 2009 LDC adoption, development and travel needs have changed. Removing this section will promote economic development via future hotel development along the E470 corridor. Article 5, Division 2.b of the LDC are part of the proposed amendment. Specifically, staff is requesting the removal of Section 21-5248.1, and that is currently on the screen. And within your packets, you can find the red line and the clean version of this proposed LDC amendment. So this amendment was last seen at the July 19th Planning Commission study session. And Planning staff recommends Planning Commission for the requested amendment to City Council with a recommendation of approval. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Questions from the commissioners?
Just one, maybe I missed it, with the council request, why, the why of the removal of the 150 minimum? Was there a rationale discussed for that?
The rationale is with current franchising of hotels and current development trends, we're seeing more and more hotels that have less than 150 rooms. I think a great example is there's one project in the pipeline that's 140 rooms, and we would then require applicants to apply for variances when that's time consuming, and it'd be easier just to remove this section, and that's one less roadblock for future development.
Was there conversation about a minimum number, or just omit it altogether? Did anybody say, oh, well, we don't want to see the no-tell motel of 8 rooms, right, or hotel or whatever it is, go down that road? And then we have, I'm kind of being facetious, but the minimum requirement, was there conversation about minimum requirement or no?
There was no conversation about a minimum requirement.
All right.
It felt like that the market in that particular area would dictate a certain size and franchisee, similar to what you're seeing on Pena there or Tower south of Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Timms. I'll take your recommendation in the packet. Thank you.
We will now move over to the public comment of the ordinance. Again, there were no virtual registers, so we now move to those people in person. Anybody present like to speak about the ordinance? We will now close our public comment. Is there a motion for the case?
I move the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve ordinance 2423, subject to the following, I withdraw that motion. My motion is, I move the Planning Commission recommend the City Council approve the proposed ordinance 2423, amending the City Council Land Development Code, or Commerce City Land Development Code.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the commissioners? We'll call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed.
The motion has passed, 5 yeses, 0 nos. Thank you for the presentation. I believe that was our last case for the evening, so we can move into commission business. Any commission business that we need to discuss? Mr. Mr. Amador?
On the commission business, I know that I did ask in the past when my term would expire. I'm not sure where that was at. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going past my term of expiration or wasn't provided notice with staff changes. Just wanted to make sure I was good. And if we can't answer it today, at least maybe someone can shoot me a note.
We have that written down and double checking. If you haven't been booted off, then assume you're good, right?
Just keep showing up, Andrew. I'd also like to say I saw the new boards. Those look quite good, right? Than our normal signs for publicizing our commission, our cases. So I think that was a good improvement from the city on that standpoint. Ms. Geiger, is there any legal business we need to cover?
No, nothing from legal. Thank you.
Tim's, any staff business?
Just a notification for our commissioners, we will have a hearing in October, so October the 4th.
Anything else further we need to discuss? Here.
Could I ask members of staff in future packets, include any charts or cover sheets related to previous PUD that were, if there's things that are being amended? If sometimes seems that there's a gap of what the previous PUDs had been, how they had been approved, that you all outline it in the argument, but it would be helpful, I think, for us to see the original PUD that's, at least the charts and tables, just to compare and contrast.
I do believe that the original one was included.
It is, but I've noticed in previous cases that that isn't always the case.
Oh, yeah, so from here on out, we are including, if it is a PUD amendment, we are including the previously or currently approved one, so y'all can compare. And then also, we're having applicants on the amended one highlight or cloud or something to identify what exactly is being changed, but yes.
That'd be very helpful,
Yeah,
just
that was
to,
good to see the red lines in that one.
just to see where you got, how you got to
We
where
want
you
to
are.
make it easy for you all in the public as much as possible, so.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Our meeting,
Lastly, Vice Chair Amador, your term will end February 1st, 2024.
our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.